Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to day 9 of 28 Days of Science Fiction. In other words, Shelf 9. And that's this one here that you can just see peeking out there. Now, we start off with John W. Campbell, his letters. And this is Volume 1, the John W. Campbell Letters, Volume 1. And that's a Kelly Freas cover there. Now, this was published and a small edition of 750 copies, and this one is limited edition or copy number 154, and it was published by AC Projects Incorporated in 1985. Editors were Perry A. Chapdelaine Sr. and Tony Chapdelaine and George Hay. Now, this is like it's a plasticized sort of cover to it. Don't believe there was ever a dust jacket, and it's illustrated as well by Kelly Freas, I believe, but it doesn't say. It says the cover is Kelly Freas. I'm not sure. There are illustrations inside. Let me see if I can find some that are kind of neat. See little illustrations there on a circuit board, or it looks like a circuit board. Yeah, and there were 2 volumes published. I don't have the second volume in hardcover because it was even more limited than 750 copies, and I believe the last time I looked, it was many years ago. It was way out of my price range, but somebody has reprinted them in a print-on-demand digital format, ugly binding, paperback. Now, this was, let me see, it doesn't give any bibliographical information on these, but it's apparently the same text that's in there, but it's minus the illustrations. Now, these are really good letters, and Campbell liked writing long letters, very small handwriting as well at times, and I assume typed ones if they were official, sort of through the Astounding / Analog office. However, there is no index in these, so you have to look through for, like it says who they're to, and so forth, and they do highlight in this one, like in bold, names, but it's very hard to find. And as I say, they've got volume 2 done as well, and I'm assuming there were probably some illustrations in volume 2 as well, which are not in the paperback edition. And it's Kelly Freas again, the cover. Now, I purchased, I had some like book tokens, I guess, that Amazon had given me a number of years ago, and I bought the Kindle edition of these 2 volumes solely for searching, and that's the best way to go about it. But it's a treasure trove of information. A lot of it is like the letters. Most of the letters in here are with Isaac Asimov and A.E. Van Vogt. Well, not most of them, but a lot of them is the thing, the collection in volume 2. Now, there are a lot more letters that are available, not available to you and I, but in archive form, and he does talk about this. It's a great treasure trove of letters. If you are interested in any authors from Astounding or just John W. Campbell in general. Now, let me see here. I was looking up something. So now I just need to move those off to the side. Now, we've already seen this, but it's going on the shelf here. It's John W. Campbell, collected editorial from Analog, selected by Harry Harrison. We've already seen those. Now, then we go on to Robert A. Heinlein. This is Volume 1, Learning Curve, 1907 to 1948. Robert Heinlein in Dialogue with the Century by William H. Patterson, Jr. This is Volume 1. I have not read this yet, but I have sort of used the index and footnotes and bibliographical material quite a bit, looking up stuff. This was published by Tom Doherty Associates, in 2010. This covers 1907 to 1948. It's got an insert of photographs as well. It's the authorized biography, and it's got a lot of pictures in it as well. Let's see here, and there was editorial, I think, format or input by his widow at the time. Doesn't quite say, but I'm sure somewhere in there I did find that out. So that's volume 1, and volume 2 by Tor as well, Tom Doherty. And this is, let's see here, volume 2, The Man Who Learned Better, 1948 to 1988. And this one was published first in 2014. So volume 2 was published. I didn't notice that. Volume 2 was, or is that correct? No, 2010 for volume 1 and 2014 for volume 2. And they're quite substantial. They are 600 pages plus each, so it's over 1,000 pages of biography for Robert Absent Heinlein. Now, this is a really good, Virginia Heinlein. She put this together, edited. Grumbles from the Grave. Fabulous cover art there. I'll see if I can find out who that is in a second. But this is Del Rey Books. It's a collection of letters to editors and other authors, all sorts of things, controversial as well. This was published 1990. It's a Del Rey book, edited by Virginia Heinlein. Let's see if I can see who the cover artist is. Let's see if they say. It's Michael Whelan. So that's not a surprise. It's just a collection of letters again, with photographs sprinkled throughout. It's quite enlightening, to say the least. Now, I've mentioned this before, with regards to Alexei Panshin. This is Heinlein in Dimension. This is Advent, and I do like these black and white covers. And you see on the back, a spaceship. This is introduced by James Blish. It's a critical analysis of Robert A. Heinlein's work, and it was published in 1968, first edition 68. This is the second cloth edition. It says 1969, and then first paperback July 1969 as well. So this is the second printing, 1969. Now, this really caused a stink with Heinlein. He did not like the assessment that Alexei Panshin was making of his work, and he tried to get it squashed. He didn't want it published, but the publisher, I forget his name now, of Advent, didn't back down, and there was a big split between him and Heinlein. This caused a lot of controversy at the time, and Alexei Panshin there's been a lot of writing back and forth regarding this as well, and there's some material on his website, the Alexei Panshin's website, that's, I believe, is still up. I hope it is, because I do have to grab that essay and letters back and forth that are there regarding this. Now, we go back to this series, Writers of the 21st Century, edited by Joseph D. Olander and Martin H. Harry Greenberg, and this is Robert Heinlein. It's just a sort of similar, certain color with the lettering on it, and it's Taplinger publishing company, if I didn't mention that before. This is published in 1978. And again, it's the same thing. It's a collection of essays. We've got an essay by Jack Williamson, and a lot of other authors that show up occasionally in sort of critical material. And it's a critical assessment of Robert Heinlein's work. We continue on a little bit with, and I believe I do have another book or two about Heinlein somewhere. This is Robert Heinlein, America as Science Fiction, H. Bruce Franklin. Wonderful cover there. And this is Oxford University Press, published in 1980. It's a series. This looks like the first one. I don't know if there were any more after this, but it was the general editor was Robert Scholes, and this was the first one. And as I said, published 1980. And this is not a collection. Well, it's by the same author, so even if it is, well, it's edited. But I don't think it's written by him, I think. All of it. It's critical assessment of his work. Again, I've not read it from cover to cover. I've dipped in and out of it. But even though I don't care for Heinlein that much as a writer, I can't deny his importance. Now we move on to Harry Harrison, the Twain's edition by Leon Stover. It's a Twain edition, and let's see here. There's a list of the corrections that are needed throughout. Quite a few. Whoever was on the editorial board didn't do a very good job there, but it's got a sticker that's on the title page that's over everything else. It's for Neil Summerfield. I don't know who that is. I haven't looked it up. With the best wishes of guest of honor, Leah Stover, and the editor, Martin Fresnel. So you see the overall editor of the Twain series. Oh no, it's Warren French. Sorry. Warren French is the Twain's editor. And this is signed by the authors in there. I think it's Harry Harrison as well, who was a guest of honor at this time. At the Souvenir Con Fiction 48th World Science Fiction Convention, The Hague, Holland, 23rd to 29th of August, 1990. And it's just the usual Twain studies of authors. They've done a handful of science fiction writers. I'd like to get them all. There's Ursula K. Le Guin, I believe. There's Frank Herbert. There's Isaac Asimov, which I have, I think, ex-library copies of, as well as I think they've done Heinlein. They've done Samuel R. Delany, I believe, and a few fantasy writers. Like there is I believe there is a Tolkien one as well, but I could be mistaken. Now we go to something which was sort of a response to Kingsley Amos's New Maps of Hell, I think it was called. And this is Hell's Cartographers, Some Personal Histories of Science Fiction Writers, as edited by Brian W. Aldiss and Harry Harrison. This is the British edition. No, this is the American edition. Sorry, Harper and Row, New York, but it is signed for Ken by Harry Harrison and Brian W. Aldiss. It says 95 and 91. The Harry Harrison was signed in New Mexico in 91. Taos, New Mexico. So they're signed. And it's exactly what it says. Contributions by authors Alfred Bester, Harry Harrison, Damon Knight, Frederick Pohl, Brian Aldiss, and the appendix selected bibliographies. It's just sort of their essays, sort of a reviews, personal histories of science fiction, as it says. I also have the, this is the British edition, I think, but not signed. Yeah, SF Horizons, Weidenfeld and Nicholson. Originally published in 1975. Let's see when this one, I didn't say that. It's Harper and Row, the American edition, 1975. And this one is 1975 as well, Weidenfeld and Nicholson, but not signed. Now we've got a memoir by Frederick Pohl. Again, I mentioned in the John W. Campbell letters, there's no index, and Frederick Pohl did not put an index in his one, The Way the Future Was, a memoir. It is it's very good. But this is this edition, limited to 500 individual numbered copies, has been specially printed for CCon 1979, and this is number 67. And for Alistair Jury again, the Golan's editor from 1979, signed by Frederick Pohl. Again, I've bought a Kindle version, or I might have, yeah, it's Kindle. It's an ebook version I have anyway for searching. I also have just a regular edition of this, unsigned as well. Now, continue on with Brian. Oh yeah, Brian Aldiss actually has a Twain's English author series by Tom Hennigan. And yes, it is signed by Brian Aldiss as well. Tom Hennigan at Carleton University. Twain Publishers, 1999. And it's signed by Brian Aldiss. I just had to check to see if it was the author, but no, it is Brian Aldiss. It's his signature. Here's a very rough ex-library copy of a book, The Happening Worlds of John Brunner, Critical Explorations in Science Fiction, edited by John DeBolt, prefaced by James Blish, and response by John Brunner, National University Publications, 1975. And yeah, it's just literally a critical appreciations. No author I don't think that we've sort of covered other than John Brunner. So yeah, it's in rough condition, but the text is still there. Now we've got here's an interesting series that came out. This is an ex-library copy. Yeah, it's still sticking. The jacket is still sticking to the book itself. I tried to clean it up as much as possible. It's ex-library. This is by Timothy O'Reilly, Frederick Unger Publishing Company, 1981. And it's an assessment of Frank Herbert's writings. It's probably as far as I know, unless there's something newer. See, this is still sticking to the. Because I've peeled off the library binding and got rid of the sticker on the spine, but it is still ex-library in rough condition. But I think it is the biggest critical assessment of Frank Herbert's work is this one here. Again, it's by Timothy O'Reilly, Frank Unger Publications, and it's a recognition series. It's a general editor is Dick Riley. There's detective and suspense. There's Dorothy L. Sayers in the series, Raymond Chandler, Ross MacDonald, the Sons of Sam Spade, Critical Encounters, Writers and Themes in Science Fiction, Frank Herbert, and Ray Bradbury. And this is the only one I have, but it's quite expensive, and I got that one really cheap. Now we've got Brian Herbert's biography of Frank Herbert, the Dreamer of Dune. which is pretty good. It's a pretty good biography of his father, but it has its issues. This has been, I believe, reprinted by Golands here in the UK. It's a Tor book, the Tom Doherty Associates, and this was published in 2003. Now we go on to a bunch of Brian Aldiss ones. This is really rough condition. I do have to replace this because I don't like, there's like coffee stains on it and so forth. But it's A Twinkling of an Eye, My Life as an Englishman, and it goes through his. It's a memoir, I guess you would say. Also, is a little bit about war years, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, in the army. And yeah, this was published by Little Brown and Company in 1998. But as I say, this is really rough. It's got coffee stains on it and so forth. So I would like to replace it. Other ones that I've picked up, it's just an Exile on Planet Earth articles and reflections, essays that he'd written. So this is a miscellaneous sort of collection of essays: Metaphysical Realms, Paradise Square, Hothouse, A Sign of Serbian Churches, Zulu and the Film That Never Was, the Agabit Trip, The Disorientation I Relish. It's a revised introduction to the Penguin science fiction omnibus, The Gulag Archipelago, Thoughts on Science and Civilization. These are the ones that I've read, are very interesting for essay-wise and the topics. Not so much science fiction at times, but still interesting. Now, yeah, okay, let's move on to this one first. The Brian Aldiss, The World and Near Ones, Essays Exploring the Familiar. Again, a collection of essays, Weidenfeld and Nicholson, 1979, and about writing, hoping, living, the Hiroshima Man, From History to Timelessness, seeing The Sower of the Systems, some paintings by G.F. Watts. So it's a collection of, again, just a variety of topics, and sometimes some science fiction topics as well. And this is The Shape of Further Things. It's speculations on change, with appreciation by Dr. Christopher Evans and others. Faber and Faber, published 1970. And again, it's a collection of essays. It's a lot to do with science fiction. Like there's Education of H.G. Wells, the Cartographic Amos and 60s SF, Christie and the New Fantasy Dramas. So yeah, so it's wide ranging, but there's quite a bit there as well on science fiction though. And I also have the paperback corgi of this because I originally ordered it as the hardcover, and they sent me this little paperback, strangely enough. But I don't think there's anything updated in this at all. So this was Corgi edition 1974. I'll pass this on to someone. Let's see here. There's a couple more. Brian Aldiss. We've got, this is an interesting one, yeah. The Pale Shadow of Science, and the Lurid Glare of the Comet. It's the Friday Project publication, 2013. Now, there was this Friday Project was going to reprint everything he wrote, and they started out with his short story. Well, not just started out with, but there's a lot of these essay collections, but also his fiction by decade. And they got, I think, 3 or 4 volumes done up to, they didn't quite get out of the 60s, I don't think. And I've got the paperback editions of them, but it flunked. It never continued. But this is a collection of essays, as I say, on science fiction and science, a little bit of everything in there. So it's, again, a really good collection. He's a really good essay writer. That's what I've found. I'm still sort of trying to warm up to his writing. He's hit or miss for me at times, but I do like him in general. Now, here's another one, The Detached Retina. This is a paperback. I'd love to get hardcover edition. This is, again, one of the Liverpool science fiction texts and studies that we've seen. And this is sort of a study of sort of science fiction more. It's sort of, it continues, but there's a lot of material that is very similar to the billion-year spree and trillion-year spree. And he just goes and, a little more detailed essays on certain subjects. As I say, this is Liverpool University Press, published in 1995. And I'm quite sure I do have more about or on Brian Aldiss, but where it is another question. Anyway, that ends shelf 8 of our tour. Thank you, BookTube.